together because like think about it, like, so he's been a beat cop, he's patrolling the streets for years and years, right? How does he get his promotion to detective after all of that time? In all honesty, he kind of lucks his way into being in the right place at the right time. You know, the girl that gets Aidan's girlfriend that gets killed, it wasn't even by him. It was just like a freak accident, and that's what ends up earning him his promotion. So I don't know. I found it a little bit confusing. He's letting his house go to disrepair. He's kind of lucking his way into a promotion. But the whole time we're sort of thinking, well, it's John Cena. He looks like, I don't know, like he looks like the guy that you'd think would be the shoe-in to be detective. I kind of agree with you, Adam. It's a little bit confusing why she seems to think, not really trust him or think, like they mentioned at one point he didn't pay the electricity bill or something like that.
Right.
Like I kind of thought that she was going to mention that in the helicopter when he was like, do you trust me now? And she's, well, that one time when you didn't pay the bill.
And Aidan Gillen and Miles Jackson's like, you don't pay the electricity bill? Shut up, Miles.
So when we were growing up, there was one Christmas where things got real busy, I guess. And for whatever reason, my parents forgot to pay the cable bill. And so it just so happens that the cable stopped coming in on Christmas Eve night when we were all in bed. But that Christmas, my dad bought the family a new television. And it's the first time we had a VCR. So all morning we're excited. We plug it in. It's just static. Nothing but static. And my father, for the next 6 hours, tried to figure out why the new TV wouldn't work. But we just didn't pay the bill. He had just forgotten to pay the cable bill in like the craziness of Christmas.
So, I mean, at least he got to learn the TV really well.
Yeah, no, he knew inside and out. Just it was not working.
Oh,
and what happened, how we found out was we got E.T. on VHS for Christmas that year with the VCR, and we put that in at work, and he's like, oh, I think I figured out the problem.
Cable bill?
Cable bill.
Can we also talk about the scene where he is with his partner? They are at a bar. They are having a bunch of drunks. They're having a bunch of drinks. Him and Hank.
Having a bunch of drunks.
Yeah, they're beating them all up. He and Hank Carver are out. And he's like, man, I gotta get back home. But he fills up a to-go beer to go home, which just makes me really happy. Like, is he walking late at night to go home and then he's forgetting the bills? Does he have... Okay, so in the behind-the-scenes stuff, they always had 3 cameras rolling. And to be fair, Cena had performed in front of thousands for years and years and years. But when I hear a lot of people who act on the stage or wrestlers, you're performing for, like, the cheap seats. You're performing for everybody in the auditorium. Then Renny Harlin throws him into a movie where he's like, this is documentary feel. But you were going to act. There's no mark. There was no marks in this movie. There's no marks. I'm going to give you minimal direction, and there's always 3 cameras on you. Act. I don't know if that did him a favor in this role, because it was the second film, and it wasn't, I don't think Renny Harlin nurtured him much. He loved him. Everyone loved Cena on this thing. But I don't think they probably could have nurtured his performance a little bit more in this.
Yeah, I think just like the rest of his career, I think Cena gets by on his charm a lot. Like, he's genuinely a charming guy. So what he lacks in, like, acting ability here, I think that, you're like, yeah, but it's John Cena. Look at him go. He's doing stuff. He's
trying. He's running. He's driving. He did all his own stunts. And he's gotten better in blockers and comedies. I think they sort of, like, what's interesting? I don't know if you noticed this, Phil, where a lot of actors, they're like the new hot thing, and then they get put in a blockbuster and it does horribly. And then 2 years later, they're doing really well as character actors, doing really funky movies. That's kind of John Cena, right? He jumped over to blockers. He's jumping over to Trainwreck. He sort of figured out comedy a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Adam. I was gonna say.
Hey, wait, let me jump in here. No, I'm joking.
We're so polite. But I was gonna say he was in the Will Ferrell Daddy's Home, right?
Oh yeah, is being funny in that as well. So I think he's found his range.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the comparisons, to The Rock, I think would be a natural one to make, right? And a little bit, maybe a bit unfair to Cena, because really with The Rock, we're talking about, a guy that is probably the most charismatic personality to come from the WWE and transition over to Hollywood movies. So, I think if you're thinking with Cena that you're getting sort of the next Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that's maybe a little bit unfair to him. So it's interesting to see sort of early on. I agree with you, Mark, that I think that he maybe sort of struggled with the lack of direction in this, but it'll be interesting to see, while it's kind of where he goes from here. I haven't seen some of those other movies that you referenced, but I'll have to check them out and see his sort of trajectory as he goes on.
Yeah, in Blockers, he's playing this dad whose daughter is going out on prom night, and he finds himself in a ton of shenanigans, and he like butt chugs a beer instead of beer bongs it, and he's just a wild and crazy weirdo in it, who's just also very muscular. Like, I don't even think they talk about his muscularity at all in that movie. He's just an insecure dad, and he's really funny in it.
And Leslie Mann makes a great youth minister joke in that movie.
What's
John Cena shows up with khaki pants and a plaid shirt tucked into them, and she goes, "Would you untuck your shirt? You look like a youth minister." And I just died.
Is that true?
I've never tucked in my plaid shirt to any of my pants, so no, it's not true.
Interesting.
It's a stereotype that I stand against.
But I think, what's interesting is they also saddled him with relationship troubles right off the bat. Like, what if they just made him a happy couple? That's what I don't get about a lot of movies where, okay, I know you have an unhappy couple in the beginning, and then something terrible happens, and then they come together, and they lose each other, and they realize, like, we should have been better the whole time. But sometimes I'm like, just let them like each other a lot, and then take them away, and then I'm going to get her back. Like, just have that.
I think that would have worked better, but I think, too, like, the thing that worked in Speed, I'll stop making comparisons, but is that Annie and Jack didn't know each other. And he was just saving her strictly because he was a good guy, not because he was in love with her. And I think that showed more of his character, and I think that could have worked here.
And I don't know about you, Phil, but when you watch a movie now and you see a kidnapped wife or girlfriend, do you just are you like, ugh, not again?
Well, yeah, a little bit. And I'm with you guys on this, though. I think that if they were, the happy couple, that things are going great, then it really makes the stakes that much more important, right? It's we're rooting for John that much more. But if he's if she's giving him a hard time about the electricity bill, then I'm wondering whether this relationship is even going to continue on after this whole incident anyway.
Well, I want to see the deleted scene where he goes home and the house is blown up. And whose fault is this, John Cena? Like, I don't think that's a fun conversation they're going to have.
It was one of the biggest questions that I had was whether the insurance company is going to cover this. I mean, he's let the house go into a bit of a state of disrepair. Like, surely the adjuster is going to be in there and, trying to claim that this was due to broken water pipes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Phil the plumber didn't even get a chance to fix anything.
No, right? The water leaked into the junction box, started the fire, then it exploded because of a faulty other pipe, John Cena.
Oh, imagine that later on in the movie. Danny Fisher is with Miles Jackson, and Danny's like, "You blew up my house," and Miles like, "What? Like, I blew up your Bronco. I didn't blow up your house. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I like Phil the plumber. Wait, your house blew up? Well, yeah. Like, well, it wasn't me." And then Danny just stops, kind of thinks about it. Oh, left the gas on. Yeah, oven's broken.
I really fishered that one, didn't I, guys? Womp, womp, sad trombone.
That's a minute of a movie I want, where they both just sit and stare at each other for a little bit. Miles Jackson's a little confused.
Did you feel, and maybe again I'm projecting, did you feel Miles Jackson's character was very, very similar to Nick Cage from Face Off?
No.
I just couldn't unsee Edward Norton the whole time.
Oh, it was very Edward Norton-y.
It was
just kind of strutting
Norton
around.
Vibe.
Yeah.
No, the whole time I was watching, I felt like the direction he was given was be Castor Troy, go.
Like Castor Troy, but not Nicolas Cage playing Castor Troy.
Right. Like go to Cage and then dial it back 3.
I gotta tell y'all, I wrote this in my notes. If I ever act, that's the role I want. Because it would just be me strolling around New Orleans, saying sassy things on a phone. Like, it's just very self-satisfied, very little anger, and just me looking smug and blowing stuff up. Like, that's the ideal role. And me getting a few licks in on John Cena. Like, not literal, like punches. And so it's just landing some punches on Cena, walking around full of myself, blowing a few things up, being a criminal mastermind. That's a perfect role.
No, SIM cards, a pocket full of SIM cards that you can throw away.
It's just on me at all times.
He must have gone through about 15 SIM cards in this movie, in this hour 40-minute movie.
That's his nickname, Miles SIM Card Jackson.
But I feel like the cell phone was really the sonic screwdriver of this episode. It's like when we need any, like, we're getting ourselves in any corner, oh, the cell phone will do it. Like, oh, the address is saved in the memory chip of the like. There's all these like things, just kind of like the cell phone will answer that question. So I felt it was used a little bit too much for my liking.
I loved though that the challenge number 9, round 9, that they were trying to figure out, the location that the 5 phone numbers were to reveal to them, and they were having to use the old T9 style texting. My wife, that was her note when we were watching. She's like, if they just had like up to date keyboards on like an iPhone, they would have been able to solve this way faster.
Yeah, and it was all 555, which I love. I love that the art department in that movie was just like, we're going with the 555s. Like, that's what we're doing. We're not going away from that. Oh, I love it. I love the SIM cards though. There's a scene where he's on his phone. 3 seconds later, the SIM card's coming out of that phone. I mean, this guy is a pro at wasting SIM cards. It's beautiful.
Do you think if they knew that, they could have said, like, can you run an APB on guys who bought 78 SIM cards in the last week?
Yeah. Who's bought 7,000 SIM cards recently?
Right. And then that's how you catch them. That's where you get them. Now,
How'd you find me? Well, you bulk ordered 3,000 SIM cards from
your
China.
Amazon cart here is full of SIM cards, bro. So here's another thing, Mark.
If you buy more than 100, we flag you.
It's a no-fly zone. It would actually be cheaper to just buy a 75 burner phone.
Would it?
Probably easier.
So wait, so then he has a backpack full of phones and he's just chucking them?
It's a little less subtle than just tossing the SIM card out the bus window, though, right? You're throwing your burner phone out the window and then shattering it all over the ground. I don't know. The SIM card was a really elegant solution, I think, in this case.
See, I would have left my burner phone as like a red herring. They'll think I'm on this bus when they trace this call.
But then they could follow you every step of the way.
Yeah, and see my path of destruction.
So you're Adam Cell Phone Hodgins. You are a notorious criminal mastermind who I love in the beginning of this film everything that they say that Miles Jackson has done. He's blown up airplanes. He blew up the last dinosaur. He sunk the Titanic. Like he
decapitated his own brother when the deal went bad. That was by far the best one.
He decapitates his own brother. Everybody that makes it Samuel who makes a deal with him, he just kills him. And then he goes by just really cheekily.
The thing about that is, like, I remember listening to one of your previous episodes where you guys were talking about the villain from Gone in 60 Seconds, the Carpenter. And really what they're doing here, and Adam, you'll know this from pro wrestling, right? They talk about how the bad guys in pro wrestling, they got to build their heat. You've got to have a reason to dislike this guy or to be afraid of this guy. And that's what they're doing here at the beginning of the movie. Decapitating his own brother. I was like, okay, this guy's serious. We need to be afraid. We need to watch out for this guy.
That's a heel move right there.
He decapitated his brother.
But I wanted to say this was interesting to me as well. When the movie started and Fisher and his partner there in a cop car driving around, if movies have taught me anything, it's that the police and the FBI hate each other and never share information. Share information.
Even partners.
Even partners. They seem to know a lot about this investigation that was going on and that they might need to help out with.
Ray Santiago and George Aiken?
Well, no, like Cena in the cop car, they're like talking about this thing that's going on, but they're not part of it was weird to me that they had that much information about the operation going down and the people involved.
Oh, in the very beginning.
They went from not knowing, anything about what was going on to John Cena being able to ID like one of the prime suspects, the girlfriend from, across the other car. Yeah, I'm with you on that. They really they were brought up to speed by that quick background search pretty quickly.
Who's ever doing that job, we need to hire them because they got the information out quick. Like that person's doing their job.
Right. and that helped John Cena become a detective.
Man, and watching John Cena tear through New Orleans fences, it was Renny Harlin though. He wanted to take away all of Cena's sort of superpowers. But if you look at Dwayne Johnson's career, right? He started off in The Scorpion King. He is an expert archer, destroys everybody. And then you have Rundown. He takes out an army. Like they didn't play like in Marine, like Cena just has to get his girlfriend back from Robert Patrick. Like that's tough competition. But they played Cena a lot less capable